Whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first of all his own face. Whoever goes to himself risks a confrontation with himself. The mirror does not flatter, it faithfully shows whatever looks into it. Namely, the face we never show to the world because we cover it with the persona, the mask of the actor. But the mirror lies behind the mask and shows the true face. Carl Jung. This quote from Carl Jung isn't just about mirrors and water. It's about the perilous journey inward. It's a journey many of us begin with the noblest intentions. To know ourselves, to understand our own minds, to become self-aware. But what happens when this quest for enlightenment leads us not to liberation, but into a gilded cage of our own making? This is the great paradox of modern self-improvement, a subtle but devastating trap known as the ego trap. The ego, in the way Jung defined it, isn't just arrogance or vanity. It's the center of our conscious world, the I that we present to everyone. It's the captain of our ship, navigating the waters of daily life. The journey of self-awareness is meant to give this captain a better map, to show it the currents and the hidden reefs of the unconscious. But somewhere along the way, the captain can fall in love with the sound of his own voice. The map becomes more important than the ocean. This is where the trap is sprung. Self-awareness, the very tool meant for our liberation, becomes a sophisticated form of self-sabotage. It's when our identity becomes so wrapped up in being self-aware that we stop being truly aware at all. We become performers of enlightenment, curators of our own consciousness, and in doing so, we drift further away from the authentic self we originally set out to find. We polish the mask, forgetting the true face that lies beneath. Let's begin by dissecting the first and most seductive form of this trap, the intellectual ego. This is the ego that weaponizes knowledge. We've all met this person, or perhaps we've been this person. They've read the books, they know the terminology, Stoicism, Jungian archetypes, mindfulness, existentialism. They can quote Marcus Aurelius on command and diagnose your shadow self over a cup of coffee. Their self-awareness isn't a tool for introspection. It's a shield and a sword. The intellectual ego uses understanding as a substitute for experience. It analyzes emotions instead of feeling them. It dissects life instead of living it. This person is perpetually in their head, observing their own psychological processes from a safe distance, like a scientist studying a specimen under glass. They become a commentator on their own life, not the protagonist. This creates a profound and painful disconnect from their own humanity. They know the name of every emotion, but they feel none of them genuinely. The danger here is that intellectualization feels productive. It feels like progress. You're thinking, you're analyzing, you're working on yourself. But in reality, you're building a more sophisticated cage. You're using the language of freedom to reinforce your prison. It's the ultimate act of self-sabotage, achieving a masterful understanding of the map while your ship remains anchored in the harbor, never once daring to face the open sea. True wisdom is not knowing all the answers, but living with all the questions. From the fortress of the mind, we move to an even more subtle prison, the spiritual ego. This is the ego that cloaks itself in the robes of enlightenment. It's the person who has meditated for 1,000 hours, who has attended every retreat, who speaks in a soft, knowing voice about non-attachment and ego death. But if you look closely, their ego isn't dead. It's just better disguised. It has found the perfect camouflage, spirituality itself. The spiritual ego uses spiritual concepts as a way to feel superior. I'm more evolved than others because I'm not attached to material things. I'm more enlightened because I see the illusion of the self. This is a dangerous trap because it takes the ultimate goal, the transcendence of the ego, and turns it into the ego's greatest prize. It's like a thief who steals holy texts not to study them but to boast about his collection. The core of true spirituality is humility, a recognition of the vast mystery of existence. But the spiritual ego is not humble. It is proud of its humility. It collects spiritual experiences like badges of honor. It speaks of letting go while tightly gripping its identity as a spiritual person. This creates a profound internal conflict. The conscious mind is striving for non-attachment, but the unconscious ego is desperately seeking validation for its spiritual achievements. The result is a person who is deeply disconnected from their own humanity, floating in a cloud of abstract spiritual jargon. This is the ego trap at its most cunning. It convinces you that you have arrived, that you are finished, that you have achieved enlightenment. But genuine spiritual growth is never a destination. It's an endless process of becoming. The moment you believe you are enlightened is the moment you have fallen back asleep. The true spiritual journey is not about rising above our imperfections, but about embracing them with compassion. It is about being fully human, not aspiring to be a flawless God. Now we descend from the lofty heights of the spiritual ego into the murky depths of the shadow. The third ego trap is one of the most common and crippling. The victim ego, or what we might call shadow identification. This occurs when a person's identity becomes completely enmeshed with their past trauma, their wounds, and their suffering. They don't just have a shadow, they are their shadow. Their pain is no longer an experience they had. It's the lens through which they see the entire world. The victim ego finds a strange comfort in its own misery. There is a certain moral superiority in being the one who has been wronged. It provides a ready-made identity and a simple explanation for all of life's difficulties. I can't succeed because of what happened to me. I can't trust people because I've been hurt before. This narrative is seductive because it absolves the individual of responsibility for their own life. It is always someone else's fault. This creates a cycle of self-sabotage. The victim ego will unconsciously recreate situations that reinforce its narrative of victimhood. It will be drawn to unreliable partners to prove that no one can be trusted. It will miss opportunities for success to confirm that the world is against me. It is a tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy. The ego, in its attempt to protect itself from further pain, ends up perpetuating the very suffering it fears. Confronting this ego trap is incredibly difficult because it requires letting go of an identity that has become a core part of the self. To heal, the person must face the terrifying question, if I am not my pain, who am I? It requires a radical act of self-love, forgiving the past, taking responsibility for the present, and daring to believe in a future that is not defined by old wounds. True strength isn't found in clinging to our scars. It's found in the courage to heal them. The final trap is perhaps the most insidious, because it masquerades as prudence and thoughtfulness. It is the trap of analysis paralysis. This is the ego that has become so obsessed with self-reflection, so lost in the labyrinth of its own mind, that it never takes action. It is forever preparing, planning and pondering, but never doing. It's a state of perpetual introspection that leads not to clarity, but to stagnation. This is where the wisdom of the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, becomes a powerful antidote. The ego in this state believes it is being responsible. I need to understand myself completely before I make a move. I need to resolve all my inner conflicts before I start that project relationship life. It seeks absolute certainty in an uncertain world. But this quest for certainty is a fool's errand. Life is not a problem to be solved. It is an experience to be lived. As Marcus Aurelius might say, you control very little of what happens outside of you, but you control your response to it. Analysis paralysis is the ego's fear of failure in disguise. By remaining in a state of perpetual planning, the ego never has to risk being wrong, being rejected, or being imperfect. It's a comfortable prison of potential. The person feels intelligent and deep because they are always thinking. But their intelligence bears no fruit. Their depth is a stagnant pond, not a flowing river. They are like a general who spends his entire life perfecting his battle plans, but never once sets foot on the battlefield. To escape this trap, one must embrace the Stoic virtue of action in the face of uncertainty. You will never have all the answers. You will never be perfectly healed or ready. The only way forward is to act despite the fear, to make a choice despite the uncertainty. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The very obstacle you are analyzing is the path itself. True self-awareness is not found in endless thought. It is forged in the fires of action. So, we've explored the 4 primary traps: the intellectual, the spiritual, the victim, and the paralyzed ego. They're different cages, but they share the same lock: an over-identification with the conscious ego, and a fear of the vast, chaotic, and powerful unconscious. The antidote, then, is not to build a better ego, but to build a bridge to what lies beyond it. This is the heart of Jung's work, the journey of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating the conscious with the unconscious. This journey begins with a courageous act, turning to face the shadow. The shadow, as Jung described it, is everything within us that we have repressed, rejected, and refused to acknowledge. It's our anger, our envy, our greed, our fears, our vulnerabilities. It is the other within us, the face in the mirror we do not recognize. To confront the shadow is to admit, I am not just the good, kind, rational person I pretend to be. I am also this. Yodva. This is the most difficult step, for our ego will fight it with all its might. But it is the most crucial one, because in embracing our shadow, we reclaim a vast amount of psychic energy that was previously spent on repression. Our anger, once integrated, becomes assertiveness and the power to set boundaries. Our fear becomes prudence. Our sadness becomes empathy. The shadow once owned is not a monster, but a source of profound strength and authenticity. It is the rich, dark soil from which the tree of the self can grow. The integration of the shadow is not a one-time event, but a lifelong dialogue. It happens in our dreams, in our relationships, in the moments we are triggered and forced to look at our own reactions. As we continue this dialogue, we begin to build a connection to something deeper than the ego, something Jung called the self. The self is the true center of the psyche, the organizing principle that unites the conscious and the unconscious. It represents wholeness. The ego trap is ultimately a story of mistaken identity. We think we are the small, conscious ego, and we spend our lives defending this tiny island of awareness against the vast ocean of the unconscious. But the journey of individuation teaches us that we are not the island. We are the entire ocean. Escaping the ego trap means realizing that true self-awareness is not about perfecting the ego, but about having the courage to explore the depths that lie beyond it. It is about becoming whole, not perfect.